Hey everybody, Tom here, and today I want to show you how to make one of my vertical deck boxes. So this is going to be the one that I'm making today in this video. This is for the game The Great Western Trail. In case you don't know and you just stumbled upon this video, I do have a YouTube channel which will show you how to make different kinds of deck boxes, but primarily I play and teach how to play different board games. And so a couple months ago, I was setting up the board game route, and there are so many different bags for different factions and stuff, and I remember getting kind of frustrated, and I was like, I bet I could figure out a way to make a deck box that would hold all of the cards into one place. And so I went ahead and made that, and from there I've used that same template and different artwork for all sorts of different games. So if you got to this channel because of Great Western Trail, awesome. But I'm going to guess that there's several viewers out there who are trying to make a different kind of a deck box. And so a couple of things that I wanted to say. First of all, in the description of this video, I have a link to a web page that I have thrown together that has a list of all of the different kinds of deck boxes that I have designed. And so please feel free to click on that link and see if there are other games that you're interested in making. And second of all, if you're here because of a different deck box design, don't worry, it's different artwork, but the pattern is exactly the same. So I'm going to be using Great Western Trail, and again, just to kind of show you what this looks like, this is a deck box that opens. I have dividers in here to keep things separate and organized, and it just makes cleanup and storage extremely nice, really easy, no bags to have to fight. So this is our goal. We're going to be making this deck box here. And to make that deck box, don't get overwhelmed by all of the materials I have. These are just everything that I'm going to be talking about, things that I like and don't like as I'm making stuff. Essentially, you need some way to cut paper. I like to do a big paper cutter to start off, and then I transition into scissors. I have two different pairs of scissors for this process because I'm crazy. And then you're also going to need some way to attach paper to paper. And so I actually prefer tape. I have tried glue. I think there are pros and cons to both the tape and the glue. I'm going to talk about the different kinds of tape, but I want to get to all of that stuff later. But for now, you should have, if you're watching this video, hopefully, a printed template of the actual box. And depending on the game, it's also entirely possible that there is a page of dividers. So what you're going to want to do is print off that page. Obviously the quality of the picture just depends on how good your printer is. I have a super cheap printer that I got 10 years ago, but it gets the job done. And I have printed this on cardstock, just regular white cardstock. And so you can see it's just printed on one side, nothing on the back side, and exact same for the dividers, it's just on regular cardstock here. So the first thing that I always do when I'm going to make one of these deck boxes is I like to use a big paper cutter just to cut out the outline of the whole box. When I designed these, I did my very best to keep every single thing as much as possible on one piece of paper, so the entire box that we're going to be making is going to come out of this paper here. Now, I practiced this a little bit. It's really awkward for me to use this paper cutter with the tripod right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go cut the paper, clean out this space, and I will be right back, and I'm going to give you guys a whole bunch of pointers and tips to help make your deck box making experience hopefully easier. Okay, and we are back. So hopefully you're following along with me and you have cut off the outside edges of this paper as well. And I apologize for the glare, number one. Number two, make sure that you do keep this part. This is going to be an important part of the design right here. That part should have been attached on your paper as you cut it out. And the other thing that I was going to say is that you're not going to do this perfectly the first time, I imagine. I'm going to do my best, like I said, to be clear. You're going to watch me make this box with you. But yeah, so just realize that you might make a mistake one or two times, and that's okay. Once you make a box successfully, the rest are easier. So having said that, what I have done here, I didn't have this originally, is I went ahead and put dotted lines everywhere that we're going to use scissors to cut. And so, again, I just designed these, so normally I just knew that in my brain, but in the designs that I have uploaded to bgg.com, and again, you can get there through the webpage in the description of this video, you should have dotted lines everywhere. So once we cut out the outside, we're going to keep an eye out on dotted lines. a really easy place to start is going to be this shape right here. I'm actually going to cut out this whole entire shape right there. That is going to be the front. Oh my gosh, why am I doing that? The front of the lid of our box. So I'm just going to use my normal scissors, and you really kind of have to give up on perfection on these, because first of all, they're not made perfectly. You're not going to make them perfectly, and Bob Ross would want you to know that you're going to be okay. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut out this big shape right here. It's dotted all the way around, so that's good. Okay. Now, every single one of my designs, I have designed just in Microsoft Word. That's the extent of my graphic design skill set. So this is just made from a table in Word. So there's going to be a couple of things that I don't have dotted that we're also going to cut. So while we're here and we have this piece, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim like a 45-degree angle on this white part here for the corners. Now, you're going to see why in a little bit, but actually keeping this white part is absolutely optional. Most of the boxes I've made already, I just trimmed off this white part here, but in my latest couple of attempts, I decided to keep it, and I'll show you why a little bit later. Next up, we don't need this whole trapezoid here. We're only going to need about half of it. So on this gray trapezoid, I'm just going to go ahead and cut that in half like that. Okay? A couple more cuts that I'm going to put on here is on this gray trapezoid at the top. I like to imagine that in my brain that it's in thirds. We're going to cut a third of the way over on this side and a third of the way over on that side. So we're just taking this shape. We're not even going to use it for a little while, but we're just going to go ahead and make some cuts so that it's ready to go a little bit later. Now, because I'm a little crazy, I put the dotted lines so that I could upload it and people could follow along easier. I'm just going to go ahead and trim those dotted lines down because I don't want to have to see them. So we'll go ahead and trim that off like this. When I make these boxes, I like to do all of my cutting first because the cutting actually helps make the folding a little bit more accurate. But either way, we went ahead and trimmed out this piece. Here I go, it's there. This is the gray part up here, and it's hard to see, but I have a slice on the left and I have a slice on the right. And I'm just going to go ahead and set that to the side for now. I'm going to get a whole bunch of scraps. I'll try to dump those off camera. Okay. Next up, some really easy cuts are along the bottom of the box. We're going to slice in each of these sections. Just go ahead and cut on those dotted lines. Don't worry about being perfect. I have some safeguards for the non-perfections, and if you really mess up, just print it again and try one more time. I'm sure all you've ever wanted is to listen to my voice once again. Heck, I'm even noticing I didn't do a great job paper cutting down here on the bottom, so if that really bothers you, you can trim these parts. These are going to form the bottom of the deck box. It's going to be out of sight, out of mind, so if you're really concerned, just go ahead and trim that up. Okay, awesome. All right, so we've got those cuts down there. Now I'm going to turn it over, and once again, as I've done this about 100 times at this point, once upon a time I actually used to cut out this triangle here, and then I stopped cutting that triangle out, and I'm going to show you why in a second, but I think I like cutting this triangle out. So I put a little X here to show you that we're going to cut out this triangle going from this corner up to here. You should cut out a triangle. It is absolutely optional to leave that attached. I will discuss that a little bit later if I remember. Essentially, if you're just trying to make the side of the lid of the box more sturdy, what you could do is you could just fold this back and tape it. But I found that it makes it a little too bulky. So for me, I'm just going to go ahead and cut that triangle right out. Okay, so you can kind of see the shape we've got there so far. Same exact situation on this side. A triangle that you could choose to leave and fold so that things are a little more sturdy, or if you don't want it to be a little too bulky like me, let's go ahead and cut out this triangle. The triangle, I know it's a little tough to see, especially depending on which artwork you're looking at. I did my best with my limited knowledge of computers. All right, so cut out this part over here. We slice the bottom, and I cut out these two triangles. Couple more things that I'm going to do is I have again, this is kind of due to the fact that I built this from a table in Word. I have some dotted lines here. You could just cut on these two small dotted lines just on the white part. Don't go all the way through. But I have found it easier if those are cut in a triangle. So I imagine that this is just the center of a triangle, and I'm going to cut the triangle like this. Okay, so that dotted line is kind of in the middle. You can still do this if you just cut on the dotted line, but that triangle will help things work out a little bit nicer for us later on. Okay, and along those same lines, I actually like to cut here like that, and cut here like that. So if you're following along, no matter what the artwork is, you should have a paper that looks something like this. And we're going to be doing some folding next. And like I said, I actually think it helps a lot to have these cuts made as we go into the folding part. So with that said, let's go ahead and do some folds. What I'm going to do is let's start off at the bottom. I'm going to flip the paper over, and for each of these cuts that we have, we're just going to fold that up. Now we're working with cardstock here, so make sure you use your fingernail, or sometimes I'll use like the handle of the scissors to go like that. But when you make that fold, it should just go right to the artwork, or all of the other lines you're going to see are folding lines, not cutting lines. So I'm just going to bring those tabs up one at a time. You could obviously have folded this and then cut it first, folded it first and then cut it, but like I said, having these cuts just feels a little bit more accurate and secure. So I'm going to go ahead and fold these upwards like this. Fold this like this. Okay. So now we got those folds. Let's go ahead and do some lid folding, okay? It gets the order of our folds, obviously doesn't matter. At some point we're going to need to fold these lines here, and we're going to need to fold the lid. Let's start with the lid. So I'm going to take each of these and fold them in like this. Okay, so we're taking those top skinny trapezoids, just doing the best that we can to stay on the line, folding it back like that. Okay, now this is cardstock, so if it's easier for you to fold forward and then go backwards, that's totally fine. But for me, I find it easier to be looking at the blank side and kind of pull the paper until you start to see some of the ink, and then you give it a good crease. So I kind of start to pull it forward until I see some color. I know it's kind of the same color on my table as it is on the front side of this paper, but okay. So I've got those things folded there. You can see some lines here and here, so I'm going to fold those. So we can just go ahead, pull this triangle like this. And again, those cuts are going to make it really nice and easy to see exactly where you should be creasing. Pull this triangle over like this. And hopefully it goes without saying in this day and age, if I'm going too fast, just pause, rewind, do what you need to do. Okay, now I'm going to fold here, and I'm going to fold here. All right, so this first fold, just pull it down like that. And then this fold over here. And you could see, normally I do this on my counter, which is taller than this table. We're not looking for perfection. If you wanted perfection, you'd buy something, right? All right, so we've got the bottom folded. We've now got the top parts all folded. Now what we need to do is fold along these lines here. What I found is easiest is, of course, turn it upside down and really just kind of use these lines right here. I mean, there's no line there, but you can kind of see from this side down to that side. That's where our fold needs to be. So I usually just kind of pull it over like that, do my best to line it up, and give it a good crease when I think I'm there. Okay, same idea here. We need to fold right to that corner right there. So I'm just going to pull the paper over, see if I can kind of slowly start pushing it down until it looks like I've got that corner. Then go ahead and use my fingernail, or sometimes you'll see me use the scissors to make it nice and crispy. All right, our next fold should be pretty obvious. It's going to be this one right here and this one here. I usually do these two folds from the left and then kind of flip it upside down and go this way. Again, at this point I've probably made maybe 50 of these between all of my trials and errors and stuff like that. So I just have ways that I like to flip the paper, plus I'm left-handed. One more fold is this one right here. Okay. Just like that. All right, so my recommendation is always cut out the border, do all of the other cuts, and do every single fold before you start taping stuff together. So I have a couple more small things that we need to take care of. The first one is, this is why I have a cutting board and a straight edge. I want to attach this to this. So you remember how we did a cut about 1/3 of the way in and 1/3 of the way in? What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this middle piece. This is the top of the lid. I'm going to come over here to this middle piece, and I'm going to cut the middle third of this. So that's really tricky to do with scissors. When I first started, I was using a kitchen knife and my cutting board, but I have since gotten smarter, and I just use a box cutter. And again, it's just pure estimate. Tape is going to take care of any mistakes you make. So I'm just going to go ahead on the crease, and I'm just estimating about 1/3, and I'm just going slowly. And it's okay to go more than 1/3. Tape is going to fix that. All right, so it's a little tough to see, but I do have a hole in the middle of that paper there. Now, let's take this lid. We're totally done cutting. Got one more fold, well, maybe 2 more folds. So on the front of the lid, remember this is the piece from over here, like that. Let's go ahead and fold that gray trapezoid back. That'll be a fold like that. And then the reason, okay, so like I said, I mentioned before, I used to just chop this off, but it kind of left a rough edge down here on the bottom, so when you went to open the box, it just wasn't that thumb friendly. And so what I like to do is I like to leave that white part down there, but I'm going to fold it backwards. So just go until I see some ink, give it a crease, and I'm going to throw some tape on it. That will just feel a little bit better on your thumb than a cut edge. So just some tape. I'm going to talk more about tape here in just a second. But essentially this is going to be the front of the lid. It'll have this part here, which just to make it feel nice. And then this part here has a cut there and there. Cool. Can we talk tape for a second? The main reason that I wanted to remake my Great Western Trail box is forever and ever I have had tape that I hate. I've been tweeting pictures every time I make these deck boxes. I tweet pictures and I'm always embarrassed because look at that tape. It doesn't look good. So it took me a while to figure it out. But did you know there is a difference between transparent tape and invisible tape? So I just went to Walmart yesterday and I was like, I didn't know which tapes to get because what does it mean to be transparent versus invisible? I have no idea. So I bought 4 different things of tape to see what was the best. These 2 are transparent, these 2 are invisible. Here's what I learned. Invisible tape is not the one you want. Invisible tape has, it's not as see-through as you want. They say it's invisible, it absolutely is not invisible. So of these brands, don't get these 2 for this project. It's not the ones you want. You may just want to look for these singlers because on the single ones you can actually look and see if they are the kind of transparent or invisibleness that you want. So I actually bought this, but this was in a pack of 5, and this is what I have on my tape dispenser now. So you're going to want transparent tape. I think that would probably be universal across the brands. I honestly have no idea, but Scotch transparent or this Pen and Gear transparent, those are good. The other ones, not so good. Okay, with that said, I'm ready to start taping a couple of things on. I like to start with taping the front of the lid to the top of the lid. And the way I do that is those small cuts that we made, I actually just fold those over. So I'm basically taking that gray trapezoid and folding it into thirds like that. And then I'm going to put this into here. So I'm going under the printed stuff over the white part. You go ahead and slide that in. And then when you flip it over, you can open up those wings we just closed in. And now the front of the box is firmly attached to the top of the box. And we're going to put some tape on there. I usually don't tape the printed part of this, but maybe I should. We'll see. But at the very least, turn it over. And I like to really make sure, I look for an arrow. So I look for this line and then an arrow like that. You don't want it to be too off center depending on how you cut your hole. Like you don't want to tape it like that. So I try to make sure I can see an arrow just like that. And I push it down, grab some tape, and I actually just tape it just like that. Can you see that? I'll try to get the glare on it. I'm just trying to hold the wing to the other part so that it definitely won't move. Do the same on the right side. Okay. All right. That part's done. Now, let's go ahead and form the lid. And again, it's not perfect. It's not going to be, but that's okay. There's a lot of things that pen and tape will fix. So like if I'm a little bit paranoid about that white showing, another option is, first of all, use a pen and cover it up, or throw some tape on the front like that. And if you've got good tape, it should be transparently invisible. All right. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to basically use these flaps to tape this part down like that. Okay? So the way that I like to do this, put it white side up, grab a piece of tape, and I put it sticky side down to the wing. So this is the sticky side over here. Do the same with the other side. Like that. Okay? And what we're going to do is kind of bend those forward. Bring the lid forward. Now, because of the tape, it's not as bendy as it would be otherwise. But then we're just going to bring those. I like to look at my corners, make sure the corners are nice, and then just pinch the tape on there. Like that. So again, pinch the wing down, look at your corner, make sure it looks good. And then, sorry, I'm half looking at the camera, half looking at the real thing. Just like that. And that is going to be the lid of our box right here, okay? Next up, what we're going to do is let's make the body of the box. So we can just go ahead and go like that. And this is really, really straightforward. I know boxes have 4 sides and this has 5. That's because we're going to attach this side to this side. So if you want to, you can go ahead and grab a couple of pieces of tape, roll them, and stick them right here on this. There won't be any artwork there. There will just be color. And I don't intend to put color there to use up your toner or whatever. But when I didn't color that in the past, a lot of times the sides didn't line up as perfectly as I wanted to. So you'd have a big white stripe down the corner, and I didn't like that. So, okay, I usually just go ahead and put 3 pieces of rolled tape like that. And this is a little tricky, but I don't know how to explain what I'm doing. Essentially, I kind of close that up, and I bring this over, and I just watch it, and I try to line it up on the top and the bottom as best as I can. I'm really watching up here, and I'm watching down here, and I just get that as close as I can and pinch the tape in. You might have to untape it and retape it a couple of times. I know that I do a lot, but there you go. Okay, now this part is to help with this issue right here. We're just going to take this. You can either put a roll of tape right here. I usually just put a piece of tape like that. And we're going to put that, oh no, into our box. Push it down. Give it a good crease. And that will hide the fact that that's 2 sides put together. That'll just look like one side like that. Okay, there's the top of our box. The bottom of the box you can really do any way you want to. Obviously, it's a free country. Let me show you how I usually do it. So we've got 5 sides here. What I usually do is I fold, we have a double edge here. I usually will fold that one down, and then you're going to have a white side and a colored side. I'll fold the white side next, and then you could tape things now if you wanted to, but I usually just keep folding. Now I'm going to do the 2 sides here. So fold that in and fold that in. And it's at this point that I put my first piece of tape on the bottom. So let me grab a piece of tape and I kind of just put it on there. and then I just kind of squeeze things together so that they end up as tightly as possible, like that. Now it's possible, depending on your style, you might have some excess here, but that's really easily fixable. So let me just open up that. I'm just going to go ahead and cut just a little bit right here. So I'm going to start at the corner and just kind of triangle it. What am I doing? Just like that. No big deal. I'm going to do so on the other side too, just so that those sides aren't sticking out. Again, this is just a lot of me just making stuff up, hopefully rewarding you with some amazing tips for your life right now. Okay, so now when I fold those, you can see they're not going to poke out the front. They just fit nicely. Give that a good squeeze before you push that tape down. Finally, we got this part here. You could do whatever you want to, and I know that there's still some white stuff there, and that's just the way it's going to be. Think about the convenience of having these cards in one box. But I usually put a roll of tape here, go like that, mush it down, and if you don't like the way that this looks, grab a piece of tape, and you can start sealing any sides that you don't like that look a little too loose. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, give it a good crease. And those look pretty good. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and tape these sides too. So now that I have this magical transparent tape, and it looks a lot more glary on camera than it does in real life. I don't have studio lights in life outside of this. All right, go ahead and do that just to make it look nice. You may want to put some right here on the side if that's a concern for you, but essentially we just made our box. So you have your box there. If you like it, I'm going to give you one more tip or piece of advice that is a thing that I like to do. I found that especially with the dividers, it's hard to like reach the cards. And so what I'm going to help you do is make this part here so that you can actually access the back of the cards as needed and wanted. And it's so simple, but my normal scissors that I like for everything else don't work. So I actually go to my kitchen scissors for this part. But essentially, you just open up the lid like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a cut here and this same size cut down there. And again, these scissors just seem to do it a little bit better than the other ones. So just a cut there, a cut there. Okay, this is clearly not a precise science. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that thing and we're going to bend it down to wherever you stopped cutting and crease it. Okay, don't try to open the lid now, it's almost locked in place. But then you're gonna pull it back up to the normal spot now that you crease it. You could go the other way if you want to crease it the other way too. Okay, but we've done that. And now we can open it up. And if you will just push it forward, you can open it down and give it a few more creases with your thumb. Just pinch that together like that. Oh, I do not like the way that that lid is sitting. You see that? That's not gonna work for me. So I'm gonna grab some more tape. Again, glue does a better job with that, but I feel like glue after a little while comes apart, where tape doesn't come apart. But tape is more visible, but also tape does a better job with the edges. Glue does a better job in the middles. Pros and cons to all of that stuff. Wrap that piece of tape around. Now, if you had decided, remember the corners that we cut, those triangles that we cut out, that was there? A really simple option, if you didn't cut out that triangle, is to just fold it in half this way, maybe put a roll of tape there, and it will make this side just, 2-ply. So it'll be a little sturdier. But I found that when you close that, it's almost like a little bit too snugly that it doesn't line up. Oh man, that's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Wouldn't you say, for an amateur who knows what? Okay, next thing is, I want to show you what to do with your dividers. Earlier when I was cutting the border off of the main deck box page, I just went ahead and cut up the borders like this. This game had an extra spot that I just didn't do anything with. I just left it like that. You may notice that I kind of just duplicated each of these things on the top. And I did that for almost all of the games that you're going to see that have these. I just did that because different people might want to organize things in different ways than I did. And so what I usually do when I'm trying to decide what to do with these is I just put them in the order that I want. And then just so I don't mess up, I grab an X and X out the one that I want to cut out. And then I just grab my scissors and I go ahead and cut the one that I don't want. One idea that I've had that I've never really executed, you could just cut, I usually just cut the whole thing off. But a really simple idea is you could just wrap that around, and that way you have it available on both sides. It doesn't look as nice, I don't think, as the other way, but you could just throw some tape on there or maybe some glue, and then you've got a tab that would work. Maybe I need to be better about it. I'm going to start doing this from here on out. But yeah, that's an idea for your tabs. But as it is, I'm liking this version of the deck box. This is my like 5th one of this particular game. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and transfer my cards just like that. We'll get them in there. And this is ready to go. I'm a very practical person. I always design all of my game or my deck boxes so that they will fit perfectly into the game box. So with that said, with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and get this in here. So seal it up like that. And this particular one actually will fit sideways just like that. And so it is ready to go. Lid fits on tight. That is how you make a vertical deck box. Yeah, so have fun. Hopefully this was worth your time and mine. So again, like I said, a link in the description of this video if you'd like to check out other vertical designs. I also am in the process and will have made some tile boxes for games like Finca or Karuba. Things like that. I also have different token boxes. I just barely designed a tiny towns box for all of the buildings, things like that. So yeah, go ahead and have fun on that website. Hopefully it's good for you. If you liked what you saw, leave me a comment. If you didn't like what you saw, don't leave me a comment. You don't have to say things like that. It doesn't matter. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'm excited about this new venture in the Tom Teaches universe. Thank you. Talk to you later. Goodbye.